Alright, in shooting our Carcano rifles, we all kind of understand that there are two types of sights. There's the older style with a little flip up where it's adjustable for elevation, and the late war style, which is a basic plain fixed sight. My question is a sight picture. Everyone tells you this, that, the other thing, but nobody, even that book, the big book I bought, does not show you the sight picture. Supposedly on the Italian sights, there's usually just a giant V in there and you're supposed to line it up. Well, I went to test this out and I got some very interesting results. That's why it warrants a video. Okay. Now, first thing is, we're going to go over three important things before we start, because the reason I'm trying to make this video is it's all very complicated. Okay. It's not as easy as saying, well, this is the way you use the sights. A guy's got one example of a gun. He's not sure of if the sights are original and the ammunition. Okay. And, you know, if you don't have the correct ammo and if the sights are not original, and what everybody always leaves out is the bore condition. Okay, you're not going to get good results. So let's start right from the top. I got it here on my board. Okay. Alright. First step, ammunition. Okay, if you're using PPU ammunition with a smaller diameter bullet, the 264, you're not going to have good results. If you're using old military surplus ammunition that's been around 70 years or so, again, the stuff breaks down. You may have some that have been stored in excellent conditions and works fine, or you may have some that's breaking down chemically and will give you erratic results. So what I did is last weekend I went and I loaded up. I used a cast bullet. Now the reason I used a cast bullet is to keep it economical, okay? And also the bullet diameter is bigger, which comes in handy. Okay, and I'll explain why. So what this is my video on my cast bullets, the NOE bullet mold, and these are lead or wheel weights cast and sized to 270 is what I size it to, and I've tested them for accuracy. It's an extremely accurate round. Okay, it's not a jacketed bullet round. But if you check on my cast bullet, I give all the details and show you where I've proven it with these guns. You know, I can get 3 out of 5 shots touching. Very good group. So we have a good base ammo that is accurate and we know works. Okay, that's the first step. Second step is your bore condition. Okay, one of the rifles I use does have a worn out bore that the bullets, the jacketed bullets at 50 yards, were kind of scattering, where other rifles with better rifling, the groups were way much tighter instead of like 3 inches. And I found out, as you'll see, I made videos of me shooting it and you'll see the results to it, but the lead bullet did work better, okay? Then, so you know you got to use good ammo that's accurate. Your bore condition is a factor. Now if you got a worn out bore, you know, it kind of defeats the whole purpose. A couple of the guns I have mint bores. Then, are the sights modified? Do you actually have the actual military sights that everyone tells you is gauged for this, that, and everything else? Okay, I'll give you an example. We'll take this little carbine here. Okay, this was like a parts gun. I paid more for one part for a gun I built than I did for this whole thing. Obviously, you could tell this rear sight was put on there because the kind of the bluing and stuff looks different than that. So it's been replaced. And the front sight blade, obviously, it's not like any of the other types I have. So what I'm going to do is we'll go and we'll look at the guns I used in the test, and we'll take a look at the sights and what I think is original and what I think is not. Okay, here are the guns I used during the testing. One of them is this Troop Special. I think it's the 9128. And it has, as you see, the old style sight with that gigantic notch in the back. And the front sight is this dome style sight, which they used on a lot of the carbines. You'll find different ones. Now, this one functioned as it should. The other gun I use, and the one I say, if you want to shoot, probably the best one to get is this 41 carbine. All right, and it has this style sight here, but it is regulated for 100 yards. With this here is supposedly 200 meters, and it has this blade sight, which I had these on a couple carbines, but it is a rifle sight, this blade style, and I guess it's correct. It depends on how you look at it. So now we go over here to these three guns. I have a cavalry carbine, which has a fixed rear sight. The only thing is, all of these rear sights appear to have been ground or filed, and you see that notch is not really huge or deep here. Now this is a parts gun from one of those barreled receivers. I got parts and slapped it together. And again, this here also, notch ain't huge, appears to be filed. And this is a little Troop Special job. And again, this one's been scrubbed and it's a post-war rework. And it's basically got a rear sight like the other two. Now, here's the front sights. Is that rifle style blade. Again, on the parts gun, rifle style blade. But on this one, the little pyramid like dome thing. Damn, the light's getting weird here in the garage. And that is a military sight. That's an original sight. Okay. I did not use the other little carbine because I know the front sight's replaced. It's nothing like the other ones that I had. So now we'll go back to the board and we'll go over the theory of the sight picture. Now, if you guys want to laugh at me, go ahead, but this is the best I can do. Now, this little blue thing here with the hex is one of these targets here. Okay, which is, I think, a 5.5 inch bowl. So it's a 5.5 inch diameter circle. Okay. Now, ideally, what everyone says, this is your rear sight, either with the old style flipped up or just the standard fixed sight. You're supposed to put, in this orange thing is the top of your front sight post. You put that so you just can see it in the bottom right here like this, and a 6 o'clock hold. And supposedly that is supposed to hit there, I guess. Because all anybody tells you is the way the sights work, you put the front post down like this and, using the rear sight, and then when you flip it up, what would happen for your elevation is when you flip the sight, the other sight up, you'll have your and then when you flip your other sight up, this will raise this V up higher. So now you're raising, sorry, like I said, I'm not good at drawing or writing. You would raise that up in terms of your target. Supposedly that's how it's supposed to be used. On the fixed sight, if you raise the elevation up to this, say this is whatever yardage, 100 yards, 200 yards, then if you wanted to go to the, say the maximum, and do this, we'll go right next to it. The whole idea is if you go and put your front sight level with that, like this in here, full sight picture, you would do this to where it came in across level here, and that would be like 400 yards or something, point of aim for 400 yards or more with the old or the new style fixed sight, or even that one there with the battle sight. You know, if you know you're hitting at 200 yards here, you know 300-400 you'd hit this way. It's just simple. It's the whole kind of concept, I guess, of how this sight works. And like I said, when you flip the thing down, it raises it up a little. So henceforth, that's why the battle sight is like a 300, but if you flip the little thing back, it should automatically be 4, and then you engage your numbers as you go. Now that is how the basic sight system works. And like I said, even like these two here would be just a fixed sight. Down at the bottom, point aim, one distance. To raise your elevation, you bring the front sight up equal with the top, and that's for a farther distance. I said, well, all right, does it work that way or does it work this way? Does it work point of aim? This is a 6 o'clock hold. So basically it's shooting a little bit higher than your point of aim. Or does it work this way, like this? Just barely see the front sight, take this and go right through the center of the X, and then it should hit there. Okay, didn't know. Nobody ever specified that. And say you're shooting a little high like this or this. Do you go, and this what this represents is you get the front sight blade and you just shift the rifle until you no longer see it, and then go point aim. Or another thing, if you're shooting high, and this is what I did, is you go with the original sight picture, but you lower, instead of touching the bottom of the bullseye or being point aim, you put a space. In other words, you lower everything down, keeping it on the center line and fire. Sometimes that works. Now that's the basic gist of it, okay? And how it turned out with the different guns, there's 5 different guns. Each and every single damn gun shot different. Okay, no one technique worked, and I'll go over and show you what I had to do. I made a video shooting each one. One of them I don't think I shot at 100 yards, but I know I shot the Troop Special, the Cavalry Carbine, the worn out bore, and I did not shoot the M41 long rifle at 50 yards. I shot it at 100 only. And I'll show you, I'll go step by step and show you which sight picture worked for each gun. Here, in a minute. Okay, this rifle here with the worn bore. Okay, using these old sights. All right. This gun at 50 yards kind of hit using as it should be. You know, just barely seeing the front sight, 6 o'clock hold. Maybe I think I had to use a bit of a gap, and I would hit the black bullseye. Okay, so this gun functioned exactly as it should. So, you know, even though the bore's worn, I wish I had a nicer bore, but this gun did what it was supposed to do. Now, this fixed sight Troop Special. Now this is one of the guns that has a mint bore. Okay, fixed sights with that sight like that. This gun also, I may have had to move that up a little bit higher using this sight picture. And actually that is the 50-yard target. Okay, and that's kind of the sight picture. It was in the groove, 6 o'clock hold. It might have been a hair higher up, you know, like maybe almost middle, not quite at the bottom. That notch is small, but this worked, and it did good at 50, and it did good at 100 yards. So that worked with that gun. Now this rifle, this Cavalry Carbine, front sight, fixed rear. This thing reacted totally different. At 50 yards, I had to bring the front sight up flush with the top of the rear sight, as you see like that right there. And then point of aim, put it on the center of the dot. So with this lined up, wherever that point was, that would strike. And I had to go right at point aim. So I had to line this up, that's an exaggeration, but bring this and this together and it would put a bullet in the black. Now when I went to 100 yards, it shot low. So what I had to do is have the front sight go above the rear sight, stick out, line it up, okay, and again it was shooting low, so I had to actually jack the front sight up a bit. The only remedy for this, in other words, the gun's like sighted in, dead on, point aim at 50 yards. When you go out to 100 yards, you're going to drop a few inches. So you'd have to decide, if you shoot at 50 yards, that's a great gun to own. If you want to shoot further, you see this sight. And I went and I measured it with this one here. This is the one I built from parts. The light reflections throwing my camera off. And as you see, the front sights are the same. This one is, I think, 20 thousandths taller than this one. And it's the same weird kind of filed on, not huge notch. But this one here, I believe, shot high. So I had to go back to the traditional sight picture like this with that gun there, even though the sights look quite the same. And it's like a 15, at least the best of my measurements with the caliper, a 15, 20 thousandths difference. Now, I don't know if that would make that big of a difference, or if it's the way the guns are sighted, or whatever. How I seen in the book, and that's another thing in the book, how they regulate these sights. As he shows in there, there's a pin that rides in the bore and a tooling that spins around and will measure. It's actually a piece of metal that comes over, and there's measurements on this plate that tells you how high the sight should be. It's a way of measuring from the center line of the bore to the top of the sight. Now, there is a slight difference. I don't know if that 20 thousandths will throw this off and regulate your sights that much or not. Okay, but that's what I ended up with that one there, which was unusual. So now we'll go on, had another big surprise, and we'll go on to the Model 41 long rifle. Now, the Model 41 is supposed to be, that sight like that is supposed to be set for 100 yards. When I used this sight picture at 100 yards, it shot way low, like a couple feet. Alright. Basically what I had to use was the front sight had to be level with the rear sight, point of aim, just like this, and at 100 yards I was hitting the black. Okay, anything else would have been low. But now I don't know if that's the way the sight's designed to be used or not. You know, I don't think it's modified. I think it's original. But did they change the, criteria for doing it? Still got that big notch in there. And then I wonder, I have to go back, and what I'll do is flip the rear sight down, which will raise up this thing about 1/8 of an inch. And then try the same thing again at 200 yards. I will go out and retest this gun and rerun it and try to do that. And like I said, sorry for the bad drawing, but I think, you understand what I'm trying to say here or show you. And it's always better with some sort of visual representation. But that's my results. And like I said, each one of those guns had a different result, even though the sights are similar, or supposedly the sights are supposed to work that way. I only got one of them kind of actually to work. One of the older ones did work that way it's supposed to. So I really don't know. But there will be, each, as I go, I'll explain the sight picture as I shoot and show you the results for each and every single one of these rifles in videos that will follow after this one.